Hey, what's up? Dave with Brazos Valley Strength, and today I'm excited to be introducing the all-new Avancus Apex Power high top shoe. So I'm going to do obviously a review of this shoe, but I wanted to start the video with a bit of a personal story around the shoe. I'll put all the time codes in the description of the video here, so you can jump ahead to just a review if you want to skip this part of it. But I'm excited about this shoe, in particular the high top aspect of the shoe, because all of this started about 2 years ago for me, a little under 2 years ago. As many of you know, if you watched my original Apex Power low top shoe review, you'll know that I'm not the owner of Avancus, but I was the very first athlete that Avancus reached out to. I got the original prototype. I'm not even exactly sure where it is. I've moved. I've had some life changes since then. I wish I could find that. I was planning on bringing it out here. But I was the first one with the only prototype that they had at that point. And I was super excited because I was frustrated around trying to find a good powerlifting shoe, a good flat powerlifting shoe. And at that point, there were really only kind of two-ish options for flat shoes, and the options weren't very good. There were only slippers, which are universally terrible, or there were some other options like wrestling shoes and things like that, or some of the Sabo shoes that were trying to make a more sturdy shoe, but I had a lot of issues with the way that those were constructed. The grip wasn't very good and like weird kind of heel stuff, and I just wasn't really excited about any of the options available. So I'll play the clip that I had in that video, and I think has kind of come full circle for me at this point, but has really led all the way here to this high top being released. So if you're somebody out there who is in some way connected to a shoe manufacturer, I mean, notorious lift people, if you're watching this video, I mean, just do what you're doing. Make this sole, but make the construction of the upper construction not this, weird kind of flexible material. And personally, I love the high top. I don't tighten it very tight. I really don't like that restriction on my ankle. But again, the same thing that I said about kind of settling in certain places. I like feeling like this kind of the sides of my foot, especially when I'm pushing laterally. I don't want it to just be the very side of my foot itself. I like kind of having the support around, mid ankle, mid side of my foot overall. So if somebody would make that shoe, I would absolutely just sell it forever, just endlessly stand it. So as you can see there, I was basically begging for this shoe, specifically the high top. But when Avancus reached out to me with the low top shoe, I was very, very impressed. I was blown away. I thought the stability, the things that I wanted from a high top shoe and from powerlifting shoes in general was all there. And I think a lot of my review here when I get to that stuff is going to be comparing the high top to the low top. And if it's worth going for the high top, if you already have a low top, and just the choices around that and kind of why I lean towards the high top shoe, because they're very, very similar here. And that's a good thing. So on a personal level though, the high top now coming out is really exciting for me because I've had some influence within Avancus that I really wanted this to be the case. And I think originally they were like kind of skeptical around the high top even being necessary, but I was really pushing for it and excited the whole time. And I think a lot of the success of Avancus in the first place, I don't know that I want to like take credit for it, but I was begging, I was asking somebody to make a shoe. And I think at that time, there didn't appear to be a significant amount of demand for it because slippers were kind of all the rage, and powerlifting is still relatively young, I guess, like within popularity around here. The big powerlifting blow up is 5-ish years old, maybe a little bit older than that. So there just wasn't a lot of options, or there weren't a lot of companies in the market making something like this. So I posted that video, and then Avancus came out and has done really, really well in I think it's only been like 9 months of their existence. We've only had a couple of releases sold out within a day every single time. And clearly the market is there for it. That just me going into random gyms around the country, going to meets, I see a lot of people wearing these shoes. And even since our last release and then now releasing these, I've seen maybe 3 or 4 other shoes that are now being made actual shoes by people who were originally making slippers or who weren't making shoes at all. And all of that has happened within the last year since the Avancus launch. And it's kind of exciting from my perspective to see that I don't know that I want to take like full credit for that influence, but that I feel a little validated, I guess, that I was totally right, that there wasn't a lot of options or weren't a lot of good options. And then now that these shoes are coming out, people want them. People are really, really leaning in that direction and kind of seeing the value that was there and moving away from a lot of the things that I thought were bad in the first place. And so the high top, I think, is kind of the next extension of that, is that I've always liked the high tops. And I'll talk about my preferences and kind of why I think high tops, for me, I don't know that I want to say better, but I prefer high tops over low tops most of the time when I'm lifting. But I'm kind of hoping that this is kind of the next step within that. And there'll be some validation, I guess, from my perspective, as people get their hands on these and really start enjoying a more solid powerlifting shoe rather than some of the poorly made, flimsy slippers and things like that. So I think that's really my personal story around this is I'm excited to see this aspect grow. I don't think I've ever really considered myself like an influencer in that way. Like all of my content besides these shoe videos and specifically Avancus videos are all meant to be educational content. And I think I've built trust and confidence from you guys as the viewers that I'm like trying to deliver good information on my stuff around selling these shoes isn't just a sales pitch. It's kind of that at this point, but it's like something that I actually do think will make all of you guys better and you'll actually get something out of these shoes. So now, I've been incentivized to push that. Like I said in the video, I would go all in if somebody made the shoe. Well, Avancus made the shoe and I'm all in, but it's just been cool to see all of that stuff actually being as well received as it has been. So anyway, this is the Avancus high top right here. As far as the colors and all of the release information, I'm filming this a few weeks before these are actually being released. I'll put all the stuff on the screen, before I actually publish it with all the actual information. But from what I know right now, they will be releasing at $99. They should be the exact same price as the low tops. I will be posting this video a week before the actual release. I'll also publish the date on the screen so you know when the actual release is if you're watching it at some point after that. But this video should be out a week before the release of the high tops here. And as always, if you use my code Wolfson, you will get 10% off of your order. So anyway, the shoe itself will be in black and white. Here is the black version. I've been training in the white version. I didn't want to put it on screen at this point because it's kind of dirty, but they are machine washable. If you do want to do that, throw it in the wash, don't dry it, just let it air dry and it's totally fine. So they can stay clean pretty easily. So the differences that I'm going to highlight here are really going to be the things that I feel like a high top improves over a low top. And I'll compare that to the low top Avancus. But as a very brief rundown, if you haven't watched my original Avancus review, I'm not going to go over all that stuff again. I'll briefly touch on it, but you can watch probably the 1.5s or even the original one. You can watch those reviews to see all the big benefits. But the main stuff is going to be the much better structure of the shoe. It's constructed significantly better than a slipper would be or something like that. So the shoe itself is going to add a lot more support. Also the edge of the shoe is going to be totally flat with the sole and then come to a little bit of a hard edge rather than a rounded edge, which is something that I really like for my lifts. I lift in a wider stance, both sumo and my squats are fairly wide. So I really like having that support on the side of the shoe. The low tops have that as well. High tops have it. So the stability is going to be very, very good. And as you can see, the tread pattern is very, very grippy. Along with Avancus's, they have a patented construction material, I guess, for the rubber itself on the sole that has proven to be extremely grippy and has been really well received by people who even are like very, very picky about their bench press stuff. It also has a wide toe box for people who really care about that. It's more than good for almost everybody I know. I actually think that the high top shoe does fit slightly bigger than the low top. I don't know exactly why. My experience has just been that the high top feels a little looser. I think just kind of have it, the shape of the shoe itself ends up having a bit more space maybe around kind of the upper foot region. So if you're somebody who felt like if you have the low tops already, if you're somebody who felt like maybe those were like cutting it close as far as size, I would go that size or half size down when you're looking at the website. I'm wearing the same size as my low tops, and I think they're still perfect. But I would gravitate if you're unsure towards going towards that size down. So as far as the differences with the high top, obviously it comes up around the heel. Just above, kind of mid ankle or so. But the heel area, and I'm just going to say everything, the high top area, the heel area is very, very rigid and supportive. So around the heel structure of the shoe, it's going to feel a lot more stable than what the low tops were. And I guess I wanted to touch on that aspect of things as whether that is actually necessary or not. And I think my big thought on that subject is like, no, probably not. Like the heel itself being more structured probably is not something that like the average powerlifter is running into all the time. But it does add to a bit more kind of feeling of structure with the shoe itself. And I really like that. And I think with that in mind, one of the questions that I got around the high top in the first place was, is it so structured? Is it so rigid that you're not able to move? Does it limit your ankle mobility? Not at all. And I think the way that you need to lace this shoe up or kind of view it is you can see how I'm lacing it right here is that I don't lace it all the way to the top. I think you could if you wanted like absolute full stability if you're looking for that kind of thing. But in all these clips that I'll show, I don't run out of ankle mobility. It still has that space to be able to flex forward, but I really, really like that feedback from my ankle going against the front of the shoe. I don't feel restricted, but I do feel sort of supported, and that extra contact point with my body I think is one of the main things that I go for with a high top shoe in the first place. And I think how I'd compare that is like with knee sleeves. There's research on knee sleeves and basically like knee sleeves probably help some, but not really because they increase knee extension strength significantly, but that they improve proprioception and kind of feedback of our body. And because of that, we're able to lift a little bit more. We feel more comfortable. We feel more confident. And I feel exactly the same way about kind of having that feedback around my ankle, whether it's my shins moving forward or just kind of the lateral pressure around my ankle touching the shoe. I get feedback about where my body is, as well as the shoe itself, just having that little bit of extra structure probably around the sides to not fold as much. But the original Apex Powers didn't really have that issue at all. But I've just been even more satisfied wearing these, that the shoe is still flexible, right? It's still going to be comfortable and flexible, but it has enough rigidity to still feel very, very supportive. And I think really I've trained in these, I've certainly trained in these longer than anybody else has at this point for sure. I've trained in them for a few months. I trained in these for probably 6 weeks and then went back to my low tops for a bit of a comparison. And I genuinely was impressed again with how good the low tops were, right? So like going back to my original review of the low top Avancus, after training in these, which are for sure my favorite all-time high top shoe, I went back to low tops and was like, these are great. These are really, really good. If the high top never existed, I would still be extremely comfortable, extremely satisfied training the low tops because of the things like the grip and that outer edge right there that makes it feel stable, even with my wider stance. But the feedback from the higher top, and I think it sometimes it kind of feels like added comfort within that. And I do think that the high top maybe has a little bit of an advantage over the low top for people who are looking for a certain feel within the shoe. I don't like my shoes super tight. When I lace them up, I tie them fairly tight, right around the very, very top of my foot, kind of bottom portion of my ankle, essentially just like the top two laces. I tie those up pretty tight so the shoe feels pretty stable around my ankle area. But because of the added structure of the high top and feeling just a little bit more structured than what the low top is, I think I can have the rest of the shoe feel a little bit more open and relaxed. I really, really like that, both with my squat and with my sumo deadlift, that I can set my feet wide where I want them, and then my foot can kind of settle into the shoe. A lot of times with the more rigid shoes, and this was one of my main issues with like the Sabo shoes, with how rigid they were and unforgiving, was I felt like I was just in a boot and that my foot wasn't comfortable and I was really getting mashed in the sides. And any of that like lateral support was there, but it was like I was jamming my foot against a wall. This, I feel like my foot is ending up conforming to the shoe, and it ends up feeling very comfortable, very strong, and very natural. And around the high top itself, I think that it's surprisingly comfortable. I actually wasn't expecting, I didn't really have ideas as far as what I was expecting from the high top in that area, but it's super comfortable. Like the opening of the shoe, the tongue is nice and soft and squishy, which actually adds a little kind of, and it goes all the way down, kind of a pillowy feel through the rest of the shoe. So when you tie it on, it conforms to your foot and it feels great. And just everything around the top of the shoe just feels very natural. You don't even have to wear any long socks with it. The high top takes care of that. But they feel really comfortable, and it's absolutely perfect. And I've been very, very satisfied with the high top overall. So if you're somebody who already owns the low tops, or if you're looking to decide, I guess at this point, whether you want to jump on board with the high top shoes or the low tops, it's going to be absolutely personal preference. My feeling is that the high tops offer a little bit more support than what the low tops do. But is that going to be enough to be like fundamentally different or to change the way that you lift? Like, I would probably doubt it. I think that if you're somebody who's currently enjoying your low tops, I think they're great. I mean, I would still, if these didn't exist, those low tops would absolutely be the ones that I would choose. The grip, the structure, all of that is excellent. But it's those extra little bit of that extra little bit of feedback of feel that you get around the ankle, and that like kind of extra structure of the shoe while still being relaxed and comfortable, that's like those little differences add up, and like those are the things that I want to feel when I lift. So if you're worried about like your ankle being too restricted or something like that, I don't think that's the case. And I think sometimes I actually feel like I get more range of motion because of what I said about like the knee sleeve comparison, is that I'm aware of my ankle and kind of push into the shoe. I kind of feel supported. I have awareness of where I am, and then I'm in a good spot. I guess on that note, just with the shoe structure stuff, I know I've pointed out before, but I'm somebody who I bench press in heels because my shin angle relative to my foot is so sharp. So with my shin moving very, very far forward relative to my foot, you can see that does pull the shoe up a little bit. If you're not somebody who bench presses like that, bench press is really the main concern with that. It's not an issue with the shoe, it's an issue with the way that I'm setting up my feet. And so if you're somebody who bench presses with your feet very far back, if you had issues with other shoes, the high top may not be the way to go, or you'd certainly want to loosen it. You'd want to tie it looser around the upper part of the shoe so that your shin has that space to go forward. If you're somebody who's doing that, maybe the low top if you want one for all three. But, I wear different shoes for it. I'd be willing to trade them off because I like the feel of the high top here compared to even the low top, but low tops are still great. So anyway, I think that is my full review on the shoe, as it was just absolutely exactly what I was looking for 2 years ago when I was asking for the shoe in the first place. It's been really, really exciting to be able to jump on board with this, and like genuinely, I'm still very excited about it. I know the owner of Avancus is like has a lot of big plans and is really intent on making this just an all around powerlifting shoe company, like doing everything he can to be the leader in the market. So like even with all these other competitors that are now in some cases exactly knocking off what Avancus did in the first place, I think I've picked the right team, and I think that if you decide to go with Avancus 2, you'll get the highest quality version of these shoes, and certainly kind of be moving in the right direction of what I feel like powerlifters in general are realizing that they really are wanting and getting the most out of. So anyway, if you do have any questions on the shoe, anything that you think I missed, please leave me a comment. I'd be happy to get back to you on those things. And again, I'm very thankful for you guys for trusting me, I guess, with some of these things, and even to some degree putting up with me making reviews on what I still really want to be just a coaching channel. So anyway, that's all there is to it. If you did like the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.